cloud smothered it, taught me to cover it up. Eventually became ashamed to be naked.
Hi everybody.
Hi Nadine.
I'm going to give you guys a brief overview of the principles that I teach and a little bit of background about myself and how our sessions and groups operate for Naked Life Coaching. So, a little bit about me and my background. I've been an entrepreneur most of my life. I have a now 18-year-old daughter. I was always a career kind of girl. I never had that dream of wanting to get up and grow up and get married and have kids. I always wanted to go out there and change the world. However, I did have a kid, and she's an awesome, awesome human being. I've been studying, I guess you could call it metaphysics, pretty much most of my life since I was about 10. When I was 10, I first read Robert Heinlein's Friday, and that book just blew my mind. You know, I'm 10 years old, my parents were Seventh-day Adventists. I'm reading this and it's talking about the S family group, you know, like multiple marriage, polygamy I guess you might call it, or polyamory, and this woman's an AI robot and she's an adventurous courier. You know, I'm reading this at 10, and then I really got hooked on Heinlein, and I have to kind of credit him for me getting into studying metaphysics, because a lot of the stuff that he writes about is metaphysical. He calls it multiple personal solipsism. So, and I also got into the theory of the multiverse through him. Then as I got older, ran across quite a few other authors. The Celestine Prophecy really turned me on more into metaphysical matters, and I've just been really studying that for the past, say, 10 plus years, very intently. I mean, like I said, all my life, but especially for the past 10 years. And the past 6 years or so, I started studying, or really practicing, what people are now calling the law of attraction, which is figuring out how to manifest the reality I want to live. So the principles I teach are developed from that personal experience, also from what I read, but mostly from my experience and noticing what worked and what didn't work and what kind of seemed to be missing from these various teachings that I studied, if that makes sense. So the number one thing, and it's like, if you guys have seen the movie The Secret, I would highly recommend you watch it because it is a great overview. It's a very well done production about the law of attraction. However, the principle number one that I teach is develop complete honesty, and they didn't really talk that much in there about that, but in my own life and experience, it seems to be the one thing that has had the most impact in creating the reality I want to create. So let me back up a little bit and say just outright, I completely believe in mind over matter. I completely believe that we create every aspect of our experience, no matter how big or how small it is. There is no real objective reality. Now there's, I guess some would call it consensual reality, where we can say we're all sitting in this conference room and this is a table, you know, this is a glass of water, there's a building. You know, we have created patterns that are shared, that we share with other people. However, those, I believe that all of that is completely malleable. So we can change anything at any time. Going back to biblical teachings, and I'm not by any means any sort of organized religion whatsoever, I do believe that Jesus was here, that had a person on this planet that had fully developed these powers that we all are born with, that we all have, and he was here trying to teach us, and he even said, look, everything that I do you can do, and even greater. And he said if you have the faith, you know, the smallest amount of faith, you could tell a mountain to get up and move, and it would move. So that to me is pretty much the same thing as what I'm saying. Reality is completely malleable. So the 10 principles I teach are basically what I came to realize has helped me in my personal transformation journey, and don't get me wrong, I'm not a master of this stuff as much as I will be, by any means. If I was, I probably wouldn't still be wearing these. That's one of the things I'm working on creating. I do believe that we have complete power over our bodies, that we can heal instantly. You know, it's all the only thing that limits us is our belief that there's a limit. We'll talk about that. So these principles, number one, let me say that they are all connected. It's not like a 10-step program. I just number them to make it easier to talk about. They all kind of integrate and fit together really closely. So, and they all feed into each other. So, I do believe that number 1 and 2 are probably the most important, but without the other parts, they are not complete. Does that make sense? So number 1 is to develop complete and utter honesty. What does that mean? That doesn't mean the brutal truth, okay? Like a lot of people think, well, if I'm completely honest, then I gotta be telling people like the worst thing I think all the time. No, that's not what it means. It means to really start understanding yourself completely and start understanding others completely. You have to be honest with your own self before you can be honest with others. So if the first thing out of that you would be tempted to say when you're being completely honest was something brutal and mean, then you got to go back and go, well, why would I even want to say something like that, or why would I even think it? Why are my thoughts not filled with joy and harmony and peace and love and acceptance and all the good things of life, right? So the goal is to get you to have a good experience, isn't it? I mean, you don't want, if we create our own reality, then we don't want to just go around and create shit. Just saying. We want to create what we would love to experience, the stuff that makes us happy, right? And if you don't know what makes you happy, well, there is another question to get completely honest about. That's part 5. What I say about honesty is that the more honest you are, first with yourself, then with others, the more truthful information you'll share. Well, the more information you share, the more you can understand yourself, and more, others can understand you. And the more that we can understand, the more that we can accept. Because we only fear what we don't understand, generally. So the more we can accept, the more we can love. Ultimately, the goal of developing complete and utter honesty is to develop more love, more self-love, and then you're able to love others more. And when you're in love with life, when you're in love with the world, when you're in love with everybody around you, it reflects. It comes back to you in your experience. Everything that we are, ultimately, everything that we believe, all these things that we think about or focus on or feel about, those are constantly being projected from us and appearing in the outside world. And they confirm whatever it is we believe, okay? So we get into this mindset where that's reality. Yeah, your reality and your reality and your reality. It's not my reality. And it's not his reality and it's not her reality. We each have our own kind of reality bubble that is what we believe. And everything that comes into that bubble is only coming in because we believe it, if that makes sense. So, part 2, once you've developed that honesty, or not once, but along the path to developing that honesty, is to assume complete and utter responsibility for your life. Right? If you create your own reality, sorry, you can't be a victim of anything else. Nothing can come into your reality, nothing can harm you or impact you in any way, good or bad, without your consent. Express or implied, that's the key. If it's, see, nothing can come into your reality without your consent, but your consent can be as subtle as believing that it could happen. Like, how many of you here have the belief that accidents happen? I mean, we probably hear that every so often for people around us. If you hold that belief, guess what? You're leaving the door of the universe open for accidents to be able to happen in your reality. This is how it works. So, one of my settings, and I'll talk about settings later, one of my settings is I'm always safe. That's just my reality. Pure, regardless of anything, I am always safe. Somehow I'm always safe. I don't know how it works. Well, I do know how it works, which is what I'm explaining, but I mean, I don't know. Just like when I move my arm, I don't have to think about every muscle that's moving, every nerve that's having to fire to make my fingers wiggle. I don't know how it happens, but I know it does. So, same thing with this reality creation stuff. I don't know exactly how it happens, but I know it does. So, assuming total responsibility is a huge thing. It gives you your power back. We are powerful human beings. We, again, quoting Jesus at you, are ye not gods and the children of gods? We are created in God's image. What does that mean? Is there a God in the sky that looks like me and like you and you know, or whatever? Or does that mean that we have the original meaning of the word image, imago, which means the total, I don't even know what it means. I'll have to look that up.
Sounded really good.
Huh?
It sounded really good.
I know, I'm right. I just can't think of the definition to say right now. So look up the word imago. That's one of your homework assignments. Part 3 is to change your perceptions and expectations. Now, if you're developing complete honesty and assuming responsibility, you've already hugely shifted your perceptions and expectations. However, start thinking about what you perceive as real. Like I was saying, the accidents happen thing, or the brutal truth thing, or, you know, all those are perceptions or expectations. Funny story, when I was editing my book about these principles, my editor had a very strong reaction to the word expectations. She just kind of went off on this little mini rant for a few minutes about how, you know, you can't have expectations because if you have expectations, you're going to be disappointed, and just, you know, she was just going off about this word. And so that's a program, you know, that's something that's running in her mind. It's not necessarily true, but it is her belief, and since it's her belief, if she has an expectation, then she will be disappointed. You know what I mean? That's how it works. So it was just funny, you know, even that word, and I'm sure that's probably a pretty common one, you know. Don't get your hopes up. Don't raise
Count your chickens before they hatch.
Yeah. You know, there's all of these little memes circulating around, and they go right in our minds, especially when we're young. I mean, when we're young, we don't consciously challenge this kind of stuff. I'll talk about the subconscious a little bit, because it's an amazing tool that we can put to our use when we understand how it works. Our subconscious is kind of like a dumb tape recorder. It records everything, all right? Now, a lot of the stuff that it records becomes a belief, or becomes a program running in you that activates when certain things happen. So we learn patterns, say patterns of relationships. We learn patterns of what we can expect, what we are able to do. We learn patterns. Let me take it back to the physical here. Okay, we're all used to dealing with the physical more, right? Think about a baby learning to walk, okay? When that baby's learning to walk, well, we say it's learning when it's doing all the crawling around and practice standing up and tottering a little bit. That's not the actual learning though. When the learning takes place, instant that becomes a program in the mind for the subconscious to use, is when that child takes its first successful step. Bam! It now knows how to walk. It's never going to forget how to walk. Alright? It doesn't have to think about how to walk anymore. In fact, if you try thinking about walking while you're walking, you've all done that, right? At some point, become conscious of your walk or how you're walking. And then you start walking funny because you're kind of interrupting that program and, getting the conscious involved with it. So our subconscious is a really helpful tool. And another thing to understand is our brains learn fast. We do not learn slowly. It doesn't take a long time. Most of the things that we learn like that. With that first successful step. Or somebody says something and it goes in and sticks in our head and becomes part of our beliefs. And we, especially when we're children, are not paying attention to that. We're not challenging it. We're not telling our subconscious, no, that's bullshit, dump that. So as we grow up, we become kind of inundated with all these little unconscious beliefs. We may not even know what they are. Figuring out what those are is part of developing complete honesty. And we'll also talk about how to change that subconscious programming. The subconscious is a great tool though. I mean, it handles our heart pumping, it handles our breathing going on. We don't have to think about that stuff. It handles our movement. All of these things are great. And it handles a lot of other good things for us. Once you learn math, well, you don't have to think about it, you just do math. If you haven't really learned math, then you're in the state where you do have to think about it. So anything that you want to create, you can first remove or tell the subconscious to erase those old programs and put the new programs in. That's just one way of going about it. But figuring out what those programs are is where, changing your perceptions and expectations come into play. And part 6, writing your new codes. One way that you can start figuring out what your perceptions and expectations are is start paying attention to what's coming out of your mouth. When you're talking to other people, what's coming out of your mouth? Carry a tape recorder around with you for a day. You're going to have to change batteries a lot or whatever. Or just when you're talking to people, remember to switch it on and just record. And forget your recording so that you're not being all self-conscious about it. And just talk and see what's actually coming out of your mouth. What are you actually saying? A lot of the stuff that comes out of our mouths we're not even conscious of. Like I said, it's one of those little memes that somebody threw into our hearing and it went right in the ear, right into the subconscious, right into the deep memory banks, and now it's a belief. We don't even think about it. We just say it. Well, that belief is affecting your reality. And because it's affecting your reality, then you go, well, that's just how things are. It doesn't have to be. We can change our reality anytime we decide we want to change it. And it can be easy, it can be fast, it can be simple. So just change your mind. So, part 4 is to discard your inhibitions. Now that's about more than just getting naked. I know, I love getting naked, but it's about more than that. An inhibition literally is anything that stops you. Anything that stops you or stops something from taking place. So, a couple common inhibitions that I observed in my own experience is, number 1, the idea of how. If I think I gotta know how to make this happen, that I'm limiting the ways that it can happen. That gate is like this, and I'm looking through the crack, going, if I just reach through there. Whereas if I just focus on what the end result is, then it leaves it open to the universe to deliver in the most efficient, effective way possible. Now I know this goes counter to every engineer and scientific-minded person out there. Okay, I understand. However, we're not talking about going out and measuring the amount of butterflies in a pond or whatever. We're not talking about, that's not what we're talking about here. We're not talking about building planes. However, I do believe that once we fully unlock this power, fully realize our full potential as humans, that we will be able to manifest any material thing we would like out of the energy that is everything that is. I do believe that. Hey, Jesus manifested like enough food to feed 5,000 people out of a couple small baskets. It's been done. Does it have to be measured with instruments to be valid? Maybe we just don't have the kind of instruments to measure that kind of thing. Who knows? Anyway, so that's one inhibition. You guys familiar with Neil Donald Walsh, the author, Conversations with God? I know you guys are. One of his videos I saw recently, which I love, he said, the universe always says yes. Universe, God, whatever you want to call it, the energy of everything that is, the answer is always yes. However, it's going off more what you're feeling about something. However, the words we use define what we're feeling. So, if you're saying, I want this or I need this, that's a very definite feeling of not having something. That's an inhibition right there, right? You're saying, oh, I don't have. The universe says, you're right. You don't have that. Here's some more stuff to want. Here's some more stuff to need. It's easy for me. What I've found that works in my personal experience is when I say, I love that. I love that. Then the universe says, yes, you do. And have some more stuff that you love. I love that. Or I would like that, you know, if I can't get my mind wrapped around the entire concept of just loving it, or if it's something that I haven't experienced, I'd really like that. That's the verbiage that has seemed to work for me. I am very conscious of words, again, partly because of Heinlein, always talking about those words and their connotations. Being conscious of the words that we use and the connotations that they have in our mind, what we mean by them, and then going out there and looking at what the actual definition of sometimes can be a real eye-opener. Like you guys, the word relationship. We all have this idea in our head of what relationship is, what it means, whether we want one or not, whether we would want one or not. We all have separate ideas about this. This is a word. So there's multiple billions of people out there, each with their own idea of relationship. And then they say, I want a relationship, or I don't want a relationship, and they each mean their separate thing. And then they collide, and maybe magic happens, maybe it doesn't. However, if we got real clear about the actual meaning of the word relationship, just the word relationship means the connection between one or more objects, or people, or things. That's it, just the connection. So technically, we're all in a relationship right now. We're in a relationship of sitting around this table and me talking, okay? And you guys occasionally laughing or commenting or asking questions. That's a relationship. So there's all kinds of relationships. When you go buy your soda pop from the grocery store or gas station, you have a few minutes brief relationship with the clerk behind the counter. So getting clear, you know, that's part of developing complete honesty, getting clear that our ideas of what things are not necessarily what they are or what we want them to be either. And really defining what they are and what they want, or what we want, what we like them to be, what we love, helps us. So, I still have one more inhibition. I'm kind of scooching into the next part, which is discover your true desires. But one more common inhibition that I've observed that has hampered me is the idea of how long something would take. Again, there's no such thing as time in the universe. Quantum physics is showing this stuff, okay? There's no time doesn't matter to the universe. I've actually gotten back an answer to something that I asked for the day before I asked for it. Didn't know it was the answer until the day after I asked for it. However, it was that fast. It was so fast that it was behind me, okay? Real time manifested one of my things that I wanted in like 5 seconds. It was simple. It was easy. I didn't even really want it. It doesn't. I was like, I wonder what that would taste like. Next second, somebody's like, "Would you like?" It was at Starbucks, okay? Pumpkin muffin with cream cheese filling. I was full from dinner. Had eaten. Wasn't hungry. Just looked in the display counter and thought, I wonder what that tastes like. 5 seconds later, the chick behind the counter is going, "Would you like a pumpkin muffin with cream cheese filling?" Not only exactly what I'd just been wondering about, free. Do they give stuff away at Starbucks normally? You go to Starbucks all the time, I know you. Do they give stuff away there? Not that often. So, this manifestation stuff works on all levels, big and small. It doesn't really matter. It's just getting really clear about what it is that you're asking for. And then asking for the right things. So often we ask for the wrong things. Or ask for the things we don't want. Maybe we're not asking for them like what we think of asking, but if we're talking about what we don't want, I don't want to be sick, I don't want to be late, I don't want my boyfriend to be mad at me, I don't want to get in an accident, it's endemic in this culture that we are always saying what we don't want. So, start paying attention again. I challenge you, tape recorder challenge. Carry a tape recorder around with you. Start paying attention when those things are coming out of your mouth. What are you saying? So, part 5 is to discover your true desires. This is the fun part. Isn't it? We all like to think about, it feels so good to think about what we do want. That's a great little question as well. That'll give you guys a nice little quick exercise. A lot of times whenever we catch ourselves feeling down, feeling sad, depressed, hurt, angry, whatever, we ask ourselves the wrong question. We ask ourselves, why am I feeling this way? And the brain, the good little tool that it is, goes to work to answer that question. Are you feeling this way because your dog died? Your dog broke up with you? And it goes, you spiral right down. So the key is to catch yourself in that moment and ask the right question. I must be feeling bad because I'm thinking about what I don't want again. What is it that I do want? And your brain goes right to work. Same function as before. It's just a well-trained servant for us to answer that question. Then you start feeling better because you're thinking about what you do want, and that's a good feeling. What you do enjoy, what you do love. Excuse me, I'll try not to use the want word either. Your true desires. Things that you just love. So, figuring out what your true desires are. Sometimes it can be a challenge. We don't always know. We block ourselves from knowing what those are because we're afraid we can't have it, or we've been told that we shouldn't want that, or, you name it. There's all kinds of reasons we might have buried that, what we really want, deep inside ourselves, and we don't know anymore. So that's one of the exercises that we'll do, if necessary, is to figure out what each of our true desires is. It's a real fun, quick little exercise. It takes 2-3 minutes. You can do it with a friend, you can do it with a tape recorder. Once you know what the true desires are, it's time to write your new codes. And that's really where I love helping you guys, I love helping my clients. It's It's fun, because you could figure out something that's just exactly right for you and create it. I create what I call settings. I call them settings because it's like changing the channel on my reality. This is just click, this is how things are now. Period. Some of my settings have been easier to affix, I guess, or adhere, program than others. But again, it doesn't really matter, large or small. You can make settings for pretty much anything. A few of my settings, like I said earlier, one of them is I'm always safe. That's one of my oldest ones. It's definitely one of my strongest ones. Like, I know beyond question that's true. I'm always safe. Belief is that knowing. When you know something, that's what really just brings things into high gear and makes them happen fast. When you're just like, I know this, it's gonna happen. So I'm always safe. I developed that because I was rebelling. I was rebelling against my mom. She was, well, I'm a girl, okay? She was always afraid that I was gonna get molested or raped. When I was 10, I just made up my mind to rebel. I'm not gonna live like that. I'm always safe. So I've had that one the longest. There's a list of my settings that I'll give you guys, and it's also on the website. So I've created a whole bunch of them. I created a setting for driving. Traffic flows smoothly and quickly and vehicles just move out of my way. 3 years going, I have never been stuck in a traffic jam. When I was driving, at least. I've been stuck once with you. Once, briefly. Other than that, I think not at all. Doesn't matter what time of day it is. Nothing. Just traffic flows smoothly and quickly. Vehicles just move out of the way. It works. Don't ask me how it works. It's the same way my fingers work. Which brings us to the concept of oneness. This isn't really one of my 10 principles. This is kind of like the belief upon which these 10 principles are founded. Similar to how our perceptions and expectations are founded upon our beliefs. The concept of complete oneness is that we are everything. Everything in the universe is one. There's no real separation between you and I and her and this table and this building and the trees outside and other buildings and the river on the other side of the world and the furthest star in the universe. Everything is one. Everything is indivisibly connected. It's all one energy. There is no separation. There's no time. It doesn't matter. It's like this big pulsing ball of energy floating around in who knows what. The void, I don't know. Maybe it's just energy, limitless, I don't know. So really, when we're manifesting, yes, we do have our persona, our individuality, but it's kind of like, I don't know, if I could really talk to my finger, it would probably have its persona too. If I could talk to each little cell that comprises my body, they probably have their personas too. I don't know how deep it goes. You know, fractals. You guys ever seen fractals? It's kind of like that, you know. How far does the individuality go? The cool thing is that when we create, we're not creating at the expense of others. We're all happy, since we're all one, we're all happy to co-create that reality together. Doesn't matter whether it's what we would call good, what we would call bad. If you have that belief and you're going with it, the whole universe moves right along with that. Every one of us, consciously or not, we'll flow right along. So that's why the traffic setting works, okay? Because traffic flows smoothly and quickly, and there's plenty of other people out there that are happy to go right along with that idea. Why not? We can make that worldwide. You know, if we really apply the power of our minds, we could heal every problem in the world right now. Because it's all one. There aren't really any problems. They're just experiences. Oh, I gotta talk about that too. again, another example. You guys ever read Illusions by Richard Bach? Okay. Well, in the story, it's a story of a master teaching a person pretty much the same kind of stuff. You know, we create our own reality. So the student's name is Richard. The master's is Donald. At one point, they're walking along, and Richard says, "Well, if we all create our own reality, then why is there so much suffering in the world? You know, people are dying of hunger. Why is there people killing each other? Why are there wars and why are there famines? And you know, why is there any bad at all if we all create our own reality?" Well, Donald didn't answer. They're just walking down the street. He goes, "You want to see a movie?" Butch and the Sundance Kid was playing. So they go into the theater, and Richard tells the experience that he had watching the movie. He'd seen it before, so at first he's just kind of watching its technical aspects, paying attention to the scenes, the way that they shot, you know, the angles, lighting, stuff like that, the actors' movements. After a while, though, he slowly gets drawn back into the story and starts enjoying the story. And I don't remember what Butch and the Sundance Kid was about, so I'm going to skip that part of the description.
Good movie.
It was a great movie. I vaguely remember it. I'm going to skip that part of the description. Anyway, they come out of the theater, and Richard, of course, remembers. "You didn't answer my question." Donald goes, "Well, what did we just do?" "Well, we went in and watched a movie." "What was it about?" "Oh, it was about this and that and the other, and they did these things and whatever." Donald says, "Well, what was your experience of the movie? How did it make you feel?" "Oh, made me feel happy and sad, and you know, the emotions that you get from whatever movies you watch." And Donald goes, "Well, there's your answer." And I'm kind of going to rephrase this in my own words. Reality is the same as a movie. You choose what experience you're going to walk into. People, for the same reason people choose horror movies, they also may choose horror existences. I fully believe that we choose what we're born into before we come into this material plane. You know, we're aware, we're choosing that experience. Just like when you go to pop in a movie, are you choosing a romantic comedy or a horror film or a drama or an adventure story? We choose that. However, the only difference between that and a movie is the length and intimacy of the experience. And we can choose to change our experience at any time. Same as with a movie. We can choose to walk out of the theater. Many people do. We call that death sometimes, coma, whatever. We can choose to put in a new experience and just totally change whatever we're going to change, whatever we want to experience. So it's pretty fun to play with this reality. One of my other favorite speakers, Panache Desai, he said, "This universe is the Las Vegas of universes. We come here to play. We come here to have an experience, to have a good time, or whatever, you know. Some people go to Vegas and they enjoy the pretty lights. Some people go to Vegas and they lose all their money at the tables. We choose to come here to have an experience." And he also said, and this is why I love him so much. He also said, "This is the only universe where sex exists, and it's the only universe where chocolate exists." And of course, when he said that, you know, I'm thinking internally, yes, I knew sex and chocolate was the meaning of life. I knew that, right? So, it is. Those are like the two most amazing things you can do in this place. Just saying. So, all right. So back to my list. You've got a good grounding on why I believe what I believe and how I teach what I teach. I found for creating settings, the things that seem to be helpful, and I've already touched on these a little bit, is to, one, only include the concept of what you do want. And a good example of a not good setting is the I want to lose weight statement. It includes the concept of what you don't want. So you'd be better off to say, I am becoming slimmer, or fitter, or healthier, or whatever it is that you want. Make it, if possible, make it a now and an always statement. If you notice the ones that I've said, I'm always safe. Traffic flows smoothly and quickly, and cars move out of my way. That's an implied always. I could say always too. Make it always, make it now, and I am statements are very powerful. In fact, my next book is I Am That I Am 365 Daily Meditations. So it's all the statements that I could think of for that. I am is really powerful. It's a declaration. I am always young, fit, and healthy. I am always safe. Going back to the Bible thing, I am is the only time that God ever gives its name in the whole Bible. The only time that God ever gives his or its name, whatever, is when Moses, in Deuteronomy, Moses is in the desert talking to the burning bush, and the burning bush is telling him to go rescue the slaves of Israel, and he goes, well, who am I to tell these, they're not going to listen to me. Who shall I say has sent me? And that was the reply. Go and tell, the reply was, I am that I am. Go and tell them that I am has sent you. A great exercise that I learned from Wayne Dyer, and I love this, it's very nice little powerful tool, is to create a list of all those things, always healthy, beautiful, intelligent, whatever it is that you want in your reality, in yourself, or in the world, or being delivered to you, and write that list, and then label the list that. And then when you meditate, all you gotta say is, I am that I am. And your subconscious, it's got that list in there. So it's just creating that program with all of those things. I think that's a great, I'm a huge fan of technology and efficiency. So that is some efficient technology right there for our minds. All right, so almost done. I know I've only got to 6, but 7, 8, and 9 are really, like, all of these flow together. 7, 8, and 9 are almost the same thing. I had to split them up to be able to talk about them intelligently. Number 7 is to be constant and aware of what you're wishing for. You ever catch yourself daydreaming about stuff that you don't want to happen? One of my common ones is when I'm driving, daydreaming about getting pulled over by a cop and talking my way out of a ticket.
All of a sudden there's cops everywhere you look.
Well, no, because I shut mine off.
That's good.
Okay? That's the trick to learn, is shut it off and switch it to a different daydream to what you want. Like pulling up in front of the building that you're going to, or whatever, Switch it to another one. Daydreaming is a very powerful tool. And I like to tell people to daydream rather than, like, you've probably all heard that we should visualize what we want and stuff like that. Like, visualization is a powerful tool. For the longest time, I never really got into visualization. Like, just the word itself kind of turned me off. Then when I was studying neuro-linguistic programming, which is the science of understanding how our minds actually work, I discovered why generally people tend to have one primary modality, and that is either they're visually oriented, or auditorily oriented, or kinesthetically oriented. So if you pay attention to, like, the words you say and the words others say, people who are auditorily oriented tend to say, I hear what you're saying. Or people that are visually oriented tend to say, I see that. And I mean, those are just common ones. There's a whole bunch, and people that are kinesthetically oriented tend to say, I feel that, or I know how you feel, or, you know what I mean? So my primary one is auditory. When I'm thinking, I'm primarily thinking in words. Do I get images? Yes. However, when I sit down and try to visualize something, it's just weird for me. But I've daydreamed all my life. When you daydream, you're involving all of the senses, not just your primary one or a primary one, but all of them. So daydreaming is a very powerful tool. I definitely recommend that. But be constant and aware when you're just daydreaming, not intentionally, and what you're daydreaming about. Be aware of what you're wishing for. Number 8 is have an attitude of gratitude. Again, the universe always gives us. The universe always says yes. So if you're walking around going, I love this, I'm so excited, this is beautiful. If it's a challenge for you, start, make it a fun thing. How many beautiful things can I notice today? In the Celestine Prophecy, that was one of the exercises they recommended to raise your energy level, was to just pay attention to beauty. Appreciation of beauty leads to love. So it's all reaching up towards that higher vibrational levels. And then number 9 is recognize your creation when it shows up. How many times do we manifest stuff and then it shows up and we're just like, ta-da, ta-da, where's that thing I wanted? And it's right there, or just went past. It happens all the time. If you're not being constant aware of what you're wishing for, it's kind of hard to recognize it when it shows up. Sometimes it's hard recognizing it when it shows up anyway, because, well, again, there may be a block with the honesty, and we're not completely honest about what we're wishing for. That happens. The whole idea, everything that I teach is geared towards helping you develop congruency. Complete congruency between your beliefs, your thoughts, your actual words, your feelings, and your actions. When you have those, when you're completely congruent, you will manifest congruently. And that can be anything you want. Anything. Doesn't matter. There's no limit. Anything. But most of us are not congruent. The more congruent we are, the greater our personal power is and the greater that we can manifest. The easier it becomes, the simpler it is, until we're just like, snap, I want a bowl of gold in my hand, or whatever, and it appears. So, I lost my train of thought. So yes, developing complete congruency is the goal. Become congruent and recognize when you're manifesting incongruently. Instead of going, oh, this stuff doesn't work, or blah, blah, blah. No, it works. You've got some incongruent stuff going on there in one of those 5 areas. Your beliefs, or your thoughts, or your words, or your feelings, or your actions are not lining up with each other. Now, sometimes we never thought of it this way, but you've had times when you were incongruent. When you went somewhere that you were looking forward to going and you got there and you just didn't feel, it was just like, I don't really feel like being here now. Alright? That's just an example. We've all had those experiences. In fact, most of the time we are incongruent, I'm sad to say. We've all had those times too when we were completely congruent, even if it was only for a moment. That's the kind of moment that we call an epiphany, or that kind of moment where we're maybe playing a sport or dancing a dance and everything just flows and it's all so perfect and you just feel so good. And yeah, we've all had those times too. Maybe it was something else for you, I don't know. But you know what it feels like when you experience that congruence. It feels like you're one with the universe. And you really feel it, and it feels incredible. And then, kind of seems to go away. Now, here's another teaching I learned from Panache Desai, which is awesome. He said that, and he described that experience exactly, he said, you know, it seems to go away, but what really has happened is you've become accustomed to the new level that you've grown into. So it feels like, oh, everything went back to normal, but no, you're expanded a little bit. And every time it happens, you expand a little bit. So the goal is just keep expanding that congruency. It's awesome. And that leads us neatly to number 10, which is expand your power unlimited. Anything, again, I've said this over and over, but anything you can imagine can be created. You can experience it. So my personal mission or goal, if you will, is to, I'd really love to levitate and teleport and, I don't know, create Satori Nation, stuff like that. That's my personal thing. Telepathy, all that kind of neat stuff that's considered paranormal or whatever. It's my personal interest. Yours is yours. Expand. Follow your bliss. Follow your dream. Do it with joy. Do it with love. And just keep growing.
Nice.
That's it. Thank you.
Cause she was super style, taught me to love myself with eyes that can strip me bare. Naked. Cause I'm losing all doubt and fear when I'm